episode of Vibes and Tea. I'm here with Alex Kopoulos, a theater design and technology major with a minor in psychology, an artist, a singer, a sex educator. Alex, please take the floor. Who are you?
Yeah, I'm from El Paso, Texas. I use they, them pronouns. And yeah, we met in college. I was just a wee little 19, 18-year-old.
So you transitioned from being in a monogamous relationship to a polyamorous relationship. For the people who are listening, right, that don't know what a monogamous relationship or a polyamorous relationship, could you please shine some light on these? Because I feel like polyamorous is a very unorthodox, not really heard of, not really taught in school of an identity. And it's not, people don't really know, oh, this is a possibility. So I would love to hear, your experiences and what you know about monogamy and polyamorous relationships.
Yeah, monogamy is like the first kind of relationship style that you're ever introduced to, especially in our culture, in our society. We are told that basically you're meant to have one partner, boyfriend, and then you date them, and then you get married, and then that's the one person that you have sex with for the rest of your life. And that's essentially what monogamy is. It's the practice of either marrying one person or having sexual relationships with one person at a time. And then on the other side, polyamory can mean a couple different things. It can mean the practice of being in love with multiple people at the same time. It can be having multiple relationships at the same time as well. But consensual non-monogamy looks a whole bunch of different ways. Like, it can look like anything anybody wants it to, honestly. Anything that they can talk about can be non-monogamy.
And so what was that like when you started your journey into discovering this new identity of yourself?
It was really interesting because I definitely didn't jump into polyamory. I started with open relationships and like friends with benefits, kind of like a don't ask, don't tell relationship where we were fucking, but we didn't know if the other person was fucking other people. Well, I knew that he wasn't doing it, but he didn't know what I was doing because he didn't want to know.
Yeah.
Or it seemed like he didn't want to know. And after doing that for a while, I really wanted to be able to talk about my other encounters in my other relationships because I felt like it was a part of my life, and if he was my friend, and since we were friends first, that if he really cared, then it wouldn't be a problem that I told him about it. But it was with him. He was very jealous, and then wanted a monogamous relationship from me, and that didn't last very long because it was not what either of us really wanted. And then after that, I had a friend that I knew for a year, and we had been hanging out and making music together, and we had been talking about monogamy and non-monogamy, and I'd been talking about how I don't like monogamy and I want to be able to be at a party and kiss other people if I have the opportunity to, and they definitely agreed. They had a partner before too that was very constrictive or constricting to their relationship. It was very controlling because monogamy can be very controlling. So the type of polyamory that I practice is called relationship anarchy.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's that? What does that mean?
Basically, it's the idea that every relationship that you have is individual to the people in that relationship.
Okay, so not all relationships are similar to, you can love everybody that you're in a relationship with differently, but at the same time you love them equally?
It's more like every relationship you have is going to be individual. So, for example, our relationship is not going to be like anybody else. Like, my relationship with you isn't going to be the same as my relationship with anybody else because you are your own person, and our relationship with each other is individual to the experiences that we've had together. So the way that I love you and the way that we have our friendship and the things that we do together is special to what we have. But that doesn't mean that I don't have other friends that I enjoy hanging out with. or other friends that I am intimate with. It doesn't mean that you don't have other people that you're intimate with, but we know that we still want to do this, and I consider that separate from anybody else because it's our own relationship.
How do you do? Because I'm listening to you and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And I don't think that I personally could be in a polyamorous relationship just because I know that I'm such a sort of, there's a side of me that's very possessive and I get very jealous. But how do you separate yourself from that and not, because jealousy is a natural human feeling and I think everybody feels it. But how are you able to separate yourself from jealousy and be like, okay, I'm not going to get jealous if one partner goes ahead and talks to another person?
It was definitely a journey. When I was monogamous, I was very jealous. Like, I was jealous.
It's kind of like it sets it up for that.
It was very, yeah, because you know that you're agreeing to being with each other and only each other, but you also know that it's human nature to be attracted to people. It's not something you can control. So it's kind of like cognitive dissonance. It kind of doesn't make any sense. And so you're like, I know that these people are going to like maybe for me at the time I was cis and straight. So I was like, oh, he's going to be friends with other women. And that alone terrified me. I just didn't want him to even be friends with them. And that is going to happen. Like, he's going to be friends with women because women are awesome. Yeah. So why wouldn't he? But it just made me think that of course he's going to like other people. How could he only like me? So I was very jealous. I was very insecure. And that's what that showed, was just how insecure I was in that relationship. And I had to learn over time that the jealousy that I feel is never the other person's responsibility. It's never their problem. It's never something that I should take out on them, because in the end it's just a reflection of my own insecurity. It's only me thinking that they might leave me, whatever that means, that I'm not good enough, whatever that means, and all of these abstract thoughts that I just start thinking about and worrying about. And You
said something so interesting yesterday when we were talking about if it didn't happen in a conversation, it's not real. But if we did have a conversation about it, then I can start to worry about it. But if we didn't talk about it, then why am I going to be stressing myself out over something that may or may not be happening?
Yeah.
And then I don't know. It's sort of like, I feel like that is a lot. It's definitely work because it's easier said than done to just be like, okay, I'm gonna try to not be jealous. So I could imagine that it was a lot of work. How long was that period of trying to overcome that feeling of jealousy and not let it take over you?
Well, it still comes and goes because I've only been polyamorous for a little over 2 years, which is just not very long in terms of anything. Like, it's just
still pretty long. It's a long time.
I guess for some people, it's bigger than zero, but it's not. There are people who have lived like 30 years being polyamorous and have entire families that are polyamorous. Humans are so possessive. We're very controlling. We love our things, and we love to know that they're ours. We love that feeling of security also, but to me, it's a false sense of security. You're not ever going to be really secure with somebody because in the end, anything can happen that day.
Contracts end.
Contracts will end. If you agree to a contract, then it's gonna probably, most likely gonna end, or you're gonna die. So, that's that's the caveat. But yeah, it's definitely been a process. It's still a process. Sometimes I do get jealous, and I do still get upset about things. But I know that I'm gonna be by myself in the end. And again, these people who are with me are doing so because they want to be, not because they want to control me, which is something that I just know that I can't give anybody. I can't give anybody monogamy because that's just not something that I want for myself. I want to have the freedom to explore, especially with my sexuality. I am pansexual, so I definitely want to explore more non-penis people. The majority of the people that I've been in relationships with and that I've had sex with have penises, and so I'm like, I want to be able to explore
and not be tied down to one relationship and one partner for the rest of your life and holy matrimony and then get married to one person.
Because it's also just not realistic. Like more than 50% of marriages end in divorce,
and they end mostly because of infidelity.
Yeah, because of sex outside the marriage. So it's not something that is really realistic. People are going to get bored eventually. You're not going to be able to provide every single thing for another person. It's just not realistic. And so people will want to explore, and people are, most people, like there definitely are asexual people, but most people are sexual, and so they desire these things, and over time sex may get boring, especially if you do the same thing with the same person for years and years and years. You're gonna want and crave something new, and
you might even start to resent your partner, I guess, if you're just like, just sexually frustrated and you're doing the same thing over and over again. That resentment can turn into anger, and it could turn into something worse over time, I could imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you're in a monogamous relationship when they're not really willing to explore with you in the way that you really crave. Like maybe you have, I mean, this goes into like kinks and BDSM, but I think most people are kinky, if not all people are kinky.
Yeah, I think there's so many, we were talking about this the other day, that there's so many different types of kinks out there.
Yeah, things that people think are regular sex. These people think that are regular and rough sex are kinky. They're so kinky. Like people pulling hair and slapping butts, like impact play and
yes,
play,
please tell me all the different plays.
Yeah, breath play, choking. Like people think all of these things are just regular rough sex, but they're totally not. They're definitely kinky. A lot of people are who, I mean, they might not like to admit it, but our age players love like that kind of caregiver type where they want to feel like they're young again. And that's just like natural. It's just like everybody's gonna have a different thing, but I think that also really ties into it, because people are gonna be like turned on and have like feelings about things that maybe their partner isn't necessarily into or doesn't really like feel like doing. And so after time, there are people who are gonna want to explore that or find people who like doing that with them, and then get to do that with other people. And so I like to have the ability to do that in a way that is consensual and everybody's on the same page and everybody agrees, rather than being in a monogamous relationship and then behind their back cheating, going without their trust. Not every intimate relationship is sexual, and not every sexual relationship is intimate. You can have freedom to decide what you want to within that, and not have to change the way you act with certain people because you're in a monogamous relationship. And that was one thing that I didn't like, and I still don't like about monogamy, is that it makes people change the way they would normally act. Like,
how so?
I've had people who I was friends with, typically guys, who I was friends with, that we were just really friendly with each other. We just had a nice rapport and a nice dialogue, and they would get into a monogamous relationship, and then they would like completely block me out. Like they just would not talk to me anymore, just because I was femme presenting, just because I had this anatomy. They were like, oh, you're competition, essentially. Like you're not, I'm not allowed to be friends with you because I have a girlfriend.
Up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that gets to the whole possessive part of everything. Like, oh, I can't be friends with you anymore because my boyfriend or my girlfriend doesn't want me.
Would get jealous.
Yeah.
Or wouldn't want that for me. And I don't like that. I'm like, had such a great friendship. Like we weren't trying to fuck or anything. Like we were just having a good time. But that's too scary for some people. And I also would act differently too. Like I would find myself attracted to other people and wanting to flirt. I think there are so many people who get in relationships and then they aren't talking to the people that they used to, or don't talk to their parents as much, or like just they're kind of
I know you talked about friendships
possessive.
Being very important in your own in your life, that you value friendships a lot. And I know that there's been times where I've gotten into a monogamous relationship and I'm guilty of kind of shutting everybody out, and it's sort of like my whole world just revolves around my one partner. And it's hard for me personally, it's hard not to fall into that trap, because I become so overwhelmed with all of this lust and love and honeymoon. It feels great. And so I think, were you ever in that same predicament of, kind of isolating yourself from everyone else just because you were so invested into one person?
Oh, yeah. When I was, monogamous for 4 years, he was like one of the only people I even talked to. Like, I did not have very many friends. He did not like me having a lot of other friends either, or not spending the time that I was spending with him. So I spent a lot of time with him, even when we were long distance. But then when you were talking about like getting so obsessed with somebody when you first start seeing them, that's really natural too. That's something that like every relationship will go through, this like honeymoon phase, and that's usually for around a year and a half of someone's relationship. You're gonna be in this like, just this, you feel like they are everything to you, and you just love them so much, and you are kind of like in this rose tinted. They can do no wrong. They're perfect in every way, but eventually that's gonna fade away. You're gonna see them for who they are, and they are flawed because people are flawed, and eventually you will see other people, and then you'll have a spark with somebody else, and then that you'll experience this whole new relationship with somebody else again. And so being able to do that while still being able to maintain those other relationships is for me important. It's a balancing act, and definitely takes communication, and it's not always cut and dry and easy, but I love that I get to do that I get to be able to experience a new relationship, and then also go back to my old partners and continue what we were doing, and know that we love each other just the same, even if we're not like in this like obsessive point in our lives where we're like always seeing each other and we're always spending time with each other, but we still have quality time, and we still make sure that we make time for each other,
and have time to
really
do your
important.
own things that you enjoy doing, and your own friends and everything. Do you ever think you would go back to monogamy if you were with a partner, if one of your partners, wanted to try a monogamous relationship? Would you ever consider going monogamous with one of your partners?
No.
No.
No, that is something that I know that I can't give that to anybody, that would be it would be false, and for me to say that I would be able to do that, because I know myself, and I know that I am attracted to people, and I love sex, and I love being able to explore kinks and BDSM, and I want to be able to have partners that aren't penis people and who don't have penises. That was the majority of who I was with.
The partner, yeah.
So I want to be able to explore, and if I'm given the opportunity and this like pretty girl comes up to me, I want to be able to have that relationship with them and do what and see how that goes, and if it works out and we are able to maintain something long term, that would be great. But if it fizzles out in a couple months because we realize we're not compatible, then I want to be able to explore that with these people, and that's happened. I've had relationships that while I was polyamorous that don't work out, but in the end it's not because we were bad people or we had a bad relationship, just because we weren't as compatible as we thought we were when we first started talking, and that it doesn't mean we didn't enjoy the time we did have together when we did. So I wouldn't be able to be monogamous again. Yeah, if that's something that they want, I want that for them. I want them to be able to have somebody who is monogamous if that is a desire of theirs, but I would not be able to give that to them. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you're at this point now where you're able to just like, this is what I want. I know who I am. You're embracing it fully, and you've met, this community and people that make you happy, and you have a really clear, great understanding of who you are as a person, and I think you're so great. But is there any advice that you would give to people who are probably in that situation of wanting to try to be in an open relationship, or maybe try a polyamorous relationship? What advice do you have for those people?
Oh man, I think to be really honest with your partners and with your friends, and just know that is more important for you to be able to express your true feelings and your true thoughts, because that's only going to help you in the end. It's only what you want, and anything that you want you can have if you ask for it. If you find the right people and you talk to the right people, you can make it happen. And know that even if one person doesn't like it or isn't into it, that doesn't mean that there aren't people out there that are willing and are able to love in that way. But yeah, I think being brutally honest, although it's hard sometimes, especially with monogamy, if you have this idea, but knowing that you are human in the end, and humans are going to be attracted to other people. For the most part, they're going to have these desires that are not necessarily conducive to monogamy, and realizing that that's real, and deciding how you want to maintain your relationship while also getting to explore other parts of yourself, I think is really fun, and it's really freeing, especially since we didn't really talk about the history of monogamy, but just for like a little context, that it started mainly, or it started to control women's bodies. The first marriage was like 4,000 years ago, and it was so that the man knew that his child was biologically his. So monogamy was never something that was for the woman. It was never the woman's choice, and men would buy their brides with the biggest
cow or the biggest pig, and then just sell
money, most whatever. And they could even give the woman back. It was horrible. It was horrible.
No.
Women were murdered, still murdered. They died in childbirth a lot. Being a queen,
women go through a lot of shit.
It was never feminist to get married, and so I think that especially with different gender identities and different sexual identities wanting to explore that, monogamy just doesn't really give you that option. And so I felt really free as somebody with a vagina, that I got to experience, and I got to be more sexually liberated. I got to choose the people that I had sex with, and me having sex with them didn't mean that we were forever tied together. We didn't even have to talk ever again if I had sex with you. Like, it just could be one night that we enjoy together, or a couple nights, or once every week.
Right.
We see each other.
Communication is really important, I'm assuming, with all of your partners that you have. So when you introduce somebody new, do you have to tell all your partners about it? Or if you're at a party and you want to hook up with this person, do you have to text your partner first and be like, hey, I'm gonna like inform them, or sort of ask for permission? So how does that work if you're encountered with somebody that you're like, I think I want to make out with them right now? How does that work?
So it's different for everybody, but for me, I don't have to ask permission, because I know that my partners and I have an agreement that when I'm not with them, I can do whatever I want, and I will tell them about it because I want to.
And stay honest, keep it, not breaking the trust or anything.
And it's never something that'll affect us, because like if somebody comes over and we hook up, and the next time I see my partner, that the only thing that might change is that I'm telling them about this interaction that I had. But introducing somebody who's, for example, not just a hookup, but maybe somebody I want to continue seeing long term. When I first meet them, if I'm really like pursuing them, I will tell them everything about my history and my polyamorous relationships and my idea about like how I view relationships, just talking about relationship anarchy, and letting them know how I think about it, because then they're able to decide for themselves if that's something that they want to be a part of. And I want them to fully be aware of what they're getting into. I don't want them to be shocked at the things that I'm doing.
Yeah, or heartbroken if they end up catching feelings for you. Yeah.
I want everyone to be on the same page. So I try to tell them as much as I can.
Has anybody ever caught feelings for you while being in a polyamorous relationship and kind of wanting to steer into like a more monogamous relationship with you?
So Maybe a little bit. I definitely had a partner that had a partner that wanted that from them. They wanted monogamy from my partner at the time, and it didn't end up working that well because that's not something they want. And then for me, I did have a partner who acted more monogamous. Like the way that I view PDA is very different than the way other people might view PDA.
How do you view PDA?
For me, it depends on the people who are in the room. Like I'm very open if we're in public and it's just us two. Like we can be as touchy and as feely and as cutesy as we want. But if I'm in the room with more than one partner, or if I'm in the room with a partner and their partner, I like to maintain my individuality. So I'm not tied to somebody. I'm not like sitting next to somebody or always holding hands with somebody. I like to maintain my
sort of like your own freedom.
I'm just maintaining myself as an individual. I'm not being associated with somebody when I'm introduced. I was for so long associated with my boyfriend or like with the partner I had. It was always like, oh yeah, this is me, but I'm also this person's boyfriend. It was just very like, that was a part of my identity, was this person's property essentially to me. But that's kind of what it essentially is like, what it sounds like. They belong to you, and like some people would like some people still won't have like intimate relationships with me because I was intimate with one of their friends previously. Like they view me as off the table because there's some rule that
some guy code. I've heard of that guy code before. Like, oh no, like we can't. You were friends with my bro, and now I can't talk to you because it's bro code or whatever. Because you're like, tainted now.
Right?
Like what the hell?
They have some weird like control over me. Like I'm an object that you just like.
Exactly. It's like objectifying you. Like you're not an object.
No,
You're
I'm a full ass person.
You're a fucking person.
Yeah. I will fuck you. I will bend you over and fuck you. Like.
I love that. I was like, okay, yes. I was like, yes, we love that.
Yes, we love topping.
Topping. Switches, dom, and then your whole exploration with that. And I think a lot more people should definitely explore within their own sexualities and their own kinks and see what their likes are and what their dislikes are. Because if you just have vanilla sex your whole life, then there's so many other possibilities that would be out there. There's so much that you might like and what you might not like. And as long as there's communication and you're feeling safe and then both partners are respecting each other, then just go for it.
Yeah, you talk about it. You can have a conversation about anything. It's kind of whatever you make it. It would surprise you the kind of conversations I've had with people, I'm sure.
Really,
Just negotiating things that you do together because through learning about BDSM, I learned a lot about negotiating and I think it's really important to know, especially as a female bisex female person, just how to negotiate because it'll help you in business practices too. Like we're just not taught to fight for what we want or to ask for what we want. We're just taught to be okay with whatever we get and not throw a fit and all this stuff. And
exactly. I said this. I actually was talking to Ivan about this in the last episode or was it the second one? I don't even remember. But it was about like how I was raised in a household where, just be nice to everybody, be very friendly, stay out of the way, don't just try not to be in the way, say yes, like don't get into problems with anybody. It was just very like, it made me feel very small and it made me feel like I didn't really have a voice for a long time and I was very scared of confrontation. But it's so liberating and so powerful once you're able to just be like, no, this is what I want, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, I'm not going to put up with this, I'm not going to put up with that. And it feels so good to finally let that voice out. That's been buried there for so long.
And knowing that nobody is like, I don't know, sometimes I've had relationships where I feel like they view me as like I'm always going to be there. They view me as a constant. They view me as I'll never leave. When that's just simply not true. Like I can always kick you out of my house. Like I can always tell you to leave.
You can always walk out that door.
Exactly. Or I can always leave it at the same point. Like I can always decide that I want to be alone at any point. And knowing that is just it's so freeing because you can't I've been walked all over because I just will take it knowing that that's my role. I have to be a good girlfriend, and I have to just deal with it, and we'll get over the fighting, and we'll be together forever or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I don't have to deal with you being mean to me. If you're mean to me, I don't have to talk to you.
No.
Like, I don't owe you anything.
You don't owe anybody
we get to
shit.
do this together.
Yes.
If you want to do this with me, it's something extra that we get to do together. But we don't have to, and I don't need it from you.
It's a give and take. It can't just be give all the time. There has to be balance in a relationship, because then if there's no balance, then that's probably a relationship where there's a whole bunch of manipulation, a whole bunch of possessiveness, and a whole bunch of other shit that is probably a bunch of red flags, and that's never good for anybody.
Yeah, you want in the end to be authentically yourself, and to be able to express that to other people, and you want people to love you for who you are.
Exactly.
And
knowing that it's okay to feel like you might not necessarily be just who everybody else is. Like, you don't, like, for example, you don't have to follow the traditional route of monogamy and being on a relationship with a guy and a girl. You are free to be whoever you want to be.
Yeah. And I mean, especially with BDSM and kink, that really helped me explore my polyamory, because I knew that I wanted to explore all these things, and I wanted to learn more about what there is to offer with, like, I mean, I'm just a very sexual person, so I love learning about it, and I love telling people about it, because it's just so fun, because also this country is so bad with sex education.
It's so bad. What was your sex education like?
Thank God it wasn't abstinence only.
Okay.
A lot of places it is.
It's still abstinence only in some places?
A lot of places. And yeah, you would be surprised.
In 2021?
Yes! It's ridiculous. Like, small-ass little towns, they're taught, like, oh, that's the only way, is just to not do it until you're married.
That's so bad. That's so bad.
It's so bad, because it's just not realistic and bad for women's health. But yeah, I didn't even know, like, I don't know, I didn't know anything about gay sex and, like, queer sex. About protection. I mean, they taught us about protection. Like
the basic condom with the cucumber and if you get pregnant, you die.
STIs.
Yeah, all of that stuff.
Not a lot. No, it wasn't very comprehensive. And I learned a lot from YouTube.
I love YouTube. I learned everything from YouTube. I think I learned more than YouTube than I did at school, to be honest. Sometimes I'm like, damn, I got a college education, but YouTube is really where it's at.
University, honestly.
That's what I say. I just need a degree from YouTube University, because honestly,
there's so many things. But anyway.
So, with that being said, thank you so much for joining my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, I'm so excited that you came, Alex. You're one of the greatest people that I know. You are so intelligent and you're so passionate with everything you do, and I'm so thankful that I got you as a roommate. Not a lot of people get luck with their first roommates, and I'm so lucky that I got Alex.
I'm lucky that I got you. I'm so happy that I'm on this podcast. Your podcast is so cool, so fancy. I love it so much, and I'm so excited to see everything that happens with it. Yeah, I love you so much.
I love you too. And thank you for educating me and educating a lot of my listeners, and just bringing awareness to sex and identity and everything. And so thank you so much. Tune in next week. I don't know what's happening, but there will be an episode. And yeah, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you guys all next week. Bye.